Imagine a person who didn't know the Earth or the whole world before is placed on Earth. Of course, this person would assume that the place where he is, or rather the ground beneath him, is completely flat. At first, the horizon he sees suggests a flat area. He might never realize that the ground is curved, meaning that the object he is on is a sphere. That person is you, except that from the very beginning you've been told that the Earth is a sphere without proving it for yourself. Before the Earth's spherical shape was proven, some writings already claimed it. Centuries before Christ, Pythagoras and Aristotle believed the Earth was a sphere, and Eratosthenes of Cyrene even managed to calculate the circumference of the Earth. When Columbus lived, the issue was still unresolved. But years later, Fernando Magellan provided the first solid proof of this by sailing around the Earth once. It was also suspected by the Greek mathematician Aristarchus of Samos that the Earth is not at the center of the universe, which allowed Copernicus to confirm his investigations 1,000 years later. He shared this incredible insight with only a few people. Later, when Galileo Galilei once again provided evidence for the orbital movements of the planets around the Sun, the Church dismissed this as blasphemy. And as time went on, it became impossible to keep pushing this aside, especially when Isaac Newton introduced the law of gravity. Since then, humans have already been to the Moon, which was an incredible event, and seem to finally prove the spherical shape of the Earth. Let's get back to today. There is still a whole group of people who say the Earth is flat, the so-called flat earthers. They're allegedly hiding that the Earth is flat. Is that a fake? I have to admit, it looks a bit strange. But the problem is that, except for astronauts, no one has experienced the world up there in weightless and dark space, and images like these depict a completely unfamiliar world at first. When you hear this theory that the Earth is actually flat, thousands of questions immediately come to mind. Let's go over these questions now. First of all pictures and videos of the Earth are supposed to be fake. National Aeronautics and Space Administration, so a real lying organization. But of course, not just National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Other probes also fake images, including some private companies with satellites at 600 kilometers altitude. All videos, live streams, news reports, documentaries and textbooks would also have to be fake. Since 1946, when the first photo was taken from space, all space agencies would have to be involved in this plan. That's not impossible at first, but let's keep looking. The next question, why no one has fallen off the disk so far, is answered by this. There's supposedly an ice wall at Earth's edge, Antarctica, which you can't reach due to the Antarctic Treaty. What lies behind the high ice wall is still mostly speculation. But there were people who have been there. They would also need to be in cahoots with the others. Logically, the Arctic should be exactly in the middle of the disc-shaped Earth. People who supposedly sail around the world are actually just going around in a circle without knowing it, because there's a current there. At airplane altitude, you can see Earth's curvature if the sky is clear and you look closely, at least mathematically. Flat earthers claim the visible curvature seen from certain heights, such as through cameras, is due to fisheye lenses. That's why the curvature is visible, and even at this altitude we can't see a flat Earth. What about gravity? It's the reason why something falls to the ground when we let it go, and why we land back on the ground when we jump. Because of the gravity of the moon, there are tides on Earth. Also, the moon orbits the Earth and the Earth orbits the sun. The Earth is round at all because of gravity, and all of this also applies to the other planets. Flat earthers claim there's no gravity. Instead, they believe the disc-shaped Earth constantly moves upward, creating these physical effects. That means that when we jump, we don't fall back to the ground, but instead the ground flies up to us. That sounds pretty nonsensical at first, but it can be applied to the whole system. We perceive the mysterious gravity, which fascinates scientists endlessly, as a force that constantly pulls us toward it. A heaviness seems to arise for all objects. In this context, dark matter is often cited as the force pushing the Earth upward, but without clear arguments. Isaac Newton was the first to describe gravity with a mathematical formula in the 17th century. What about the scientifically proven laws that are based on gravity? Or you use, for example, Albert Einstein's theory of relativity. For example, Albert Einstein and many other scientists with their proven theories would also need to be included. What about the sun? The sun is believed to be smaller and closer to Earth. And just like the moon, it is supposed to have a diameter of about 51 kilometers and circle 4,000 kilometers above the Earth. But then, why do we see the sun set on the horizon? The seasons would be caused by the sun sometimes being closer to the Earth and sometimes farther away. So does the sun constantly move upward with the Earth? But some people don't even think about these details. They just firmly believe that the Earth is flat and that the specifics haven't been researched yet, because we're simply not given the opportunity to learn more about it. So there are even some who believe that the moon is just a hologram. But what about the fact that the moon appears upside down when viewed from the southern hemisphere, roughly speaking? This phenomenon can only occur on a sphere. And what about some of the very simple and small proofs, like the experiment with the Foucault pendulum? Are these simply not considered at all? This experiment is about demonstrating the Earth's rotation using a pendulum. French physicist Léon Foucault hung a pendulum in his room, let it swing, and marked its path. No forces acted on the pendulum except gravity, but he observed that over time the pendulum swung past different points, meaning the plane of the pendulum's swing slowly rotated. So he concluded that it wasn't the pendulum changing its direction, but the ground, meaning the Earth. He then demonstrated this experiment to the public with a larger pendulum. Today, you can observe this experiment in many places around the world, or even perform it yourself. In 1849, the author and inventor Samuel Robotham published the book Synthetic Astronomy, in which he firmly believed that the Earth is flat. He also had many followers. Since 2015, this has been revived by someone again. This time, so many are convinced it's hard to believe they truly mean it, and they're even willing to discuss it on a scientific level. The technology is so advanced that you can watch live with the smartphone you carry in your pocket as a probe orbits the Earth. Many people consider that questionable, but you can easily find out whether the technology is really that advanced by getting involved, studying these things, and so on. So theoretically, the time could eventually come when anyone could buy a space probe at a store for a few bucks and send it into space to other planets. We humans now consider everything a conspiracy because we've often been lied to and deceived by what is said in the media. We don't have any trust anymore. We have to look at a conspiracy logically from all sides before we make it a truth. But apparently that's part of the plan, to distract from real, mostly political lies, like the classic example of September 11th. But those are lies that have fatal consequences, lies that cause millions of people to die. Those are the lies that need to be exposed. You must tell the real ones from the fake ones. That's why it could be that these ultimately false conspiracies are deliberately spread in the world. This way, people who are actually right about a conspiracy aren't taken seriously. You mix all the absurd conspiracies with the truths to make everything seem worthless. That's how they manage to make people like you, people who are searching for the truth, look ridiculous.